let's take an inside look at how a for each loop works. Remember, a for each loop does an iteration for each record in a collection. We begin with a collection, specifically a list of leads. Let's add a few leads to our collection. First, we'll add Hat Girl. Then we add Beard Man. Finally, we add The Boss. Our lead list has 3 records in it. And yes, I do realize this isn't syntactically proper code. Having a picture of a man in a Star Wars shirt is not a working substitute for an actual lead variable. But that part isn't important because we want to focus on the loop syntax instead. So now on the right-hand side, we're going to do a for each loop against our lead list. This is the syntax. We start with for. Then inside the parentheses, we create a variable. Add a colon, then we type our collection variable. Finally, we add open and closing brackets to house the code block that runs during each loop iteration. The variable we're creating on the left must be the same data type of each record in our collection. That's because for each record in our collection, we'll assign it to this variable, run the code in our loop, then move on to the next record in our collection and repeat. This syntax should look familiar to you because it's the same thing we do with trigger.new in every trigger. Remember, trigger.new is always a list of S objects. In fact, most of the time, you'll be using lists of S objects when doing for each loops. Now inside our loop, we have our code block that we want to repeat. Here, we're setting default field values on our lead. And here, we set some anti-spam values on the lead. Basically, this loop sets default field values and anti-spam values for all leads in the given collection. Now let's walk through how our for each loop evaluates. First up is Hat Girl. Remember that lists preserve the order of records inside it. Since we added Hat Girl first, she's the first up in our loop. Our myLead variable gets temporarily assigned to Hat Girl, and the code inside our for each loop executes. Since our code updates the fields on the myLead variable, and Hat Girl is assigned to the myLead variable for this iteration, Hat Girl's fields are changed. Now that Hat Girl's fields have been changed and we can be assured she won't be spammed, our for each loop moves on to the next record, Beard Man. The myLead variable now points to Beard Man instead of Hat Girl. Don't worry, Hat Girl's fields have already been updated, so we don't need to worry about our changes to her getting lost at this point. The code inside our for each loop executes, and now Beard Man's fields have also been updated. Finally, we move on to the last record in our lead list, The Boss. We temporarily assign the myLead variable to the boss, run our code block, and now the boss's fields have been updated. So now by the end of this loop, what we're left with is the same list of 3 leads. However, the fields of each lead in this list have been completely updated according to our for each loop's logic. Everyone's anti-spam fields have been set. This just means the fields are set in Apex, however. This doesn't mean the fields have been saved back into our Salesforce database. We'll talk more about this when we cover DML shortly.